our country. Baguma Richard, your host as always. Church of Uganda Family TV is the family TV that is welcoming you. In studio tonight, I have 3 gentlemen that are joining me to speak about the issue of our city. The attempt, as we are told, to bring order, and the first of the actions in bringing order to the city is to tell the vendors to get off the street. In fact, somebody was telling me that they are vendors, they are hawkers, and that they don't mean the same at law. The good thing is I have lawyers in the house, so probably they will tell us if the lawyering English is different from English. But those are the things that we are going to talk about now. In studio with me is the resident panelist, Dr. Daniel Rugarama, who's a lawyer, who's many things, including a Pan-Africanist and the chair of the Pan-African movement in Uganda, and many other titles. He can probably talk about them. In a second, he will be saying hello to you. But before that, I would also like to introduce Timothy Chemonges. Timothy Chemonges is the top honcho at the Center for Police Analysis in Uganda. He's also our analyst and the regional one. I also thank him for being with us. Now, I think for the maiden time, we are being joined by a man who aspired to be the mayor of the city. He seems to say that he would have had solutions for the vendors, but he was not given the chance. And this is Yamu Burobuto. Yamu Burobuto is also an ED of a tank that thinks. So I will start with you. Thank you for joining us. Say hello to our viewers and say a little about your think tank.
Thank you very much, Baguma. My name is Yamu Burobuto, District Director of Progressive Think Tank. We are a non-profit organization that works within the area of research, advocacy, and policy analysis in so many fields. I would like to say good evening to our viewers out there. My hope is that we will be able to add some value to you for sparing your time to listen to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much in the proper suits, like every ED should do. It's Timothy Chemonges, who is also at the head of what they call Parliament Watch. What is Parliament Watch, Chemonges?
The Parliament Watch is a civic tech platform that monitors the work of Parliament to provide the public information, the happenings of what is transpiring in Parliament, do analysis, but also, more importantly, do what we call the feedback and the constructive platform where you have public and the policymakers get the feedback in terms of what each is expecting.
You can also continue and say hello to our viewers.
All right. Thank you for that. A very good evening to you, our viewers, and the panelists here. I'm glad to be here, Mr. Baguma. And during this week, we've also been doing a lot of work around road safety, really trying to ensure that there's some level of sanity on our roads. You'll notice that we lose close to 5,000 people annually on matters road crashes, and we lose close to 7% of our total GDP to looking into after the casualties of these road crashes, but also not aggregating the other indirect consequences that come along with this. So it's also an area that we've been very keen working with Ministry of Works to ensure that we can streamline the policy framework, but also see how that can be implemented effectively. Thank you.
Okay, so maybe when we throw vendors off the streets, we shall have less road issues. I don't know, but Dr. Daniel Rugarama, say hello to our viewers and then tell us the global geostrategic analyst.
A very good evening to our esteemed viewers and salutations to my dear comrades in the house. I, of course, once again, very grateful to Family TV for choosing me among the millions of Ugandans to continuously come here to share my views. I do not in any way claim to be an absolute custodian of knowledge. I can only give you my very best.
I'll start with you, the gentleman who wanted to be the mayor of this city. Would you have thrown out vendors from the street?
Thank you, Baguma. Firstly, I think it was issue number one on my campaign, because I had anticipated that this kind of scenarios were going to happen, considering what the posture of those that are truly in charge of the city have been taking over time. And point number one was to assure people in Kampala because it was clear that there would be an attempt, like has been before, of trying to evacuate these vendors on the streets. Now, from the onset, it must be understood that everybody loves order. Okay, I want to believe that everybody loves order. I love order myself. Even the vendor who has been taken off the street, if you took them to the city like Johannesburg, like Kigali, New York, they would come back and say, man, the other cities are quite organized and ordered. So even they themselves, I'm sure, would love order. But you must ask yourself the question, why are they there? Number one, why do we have vendors on our streets? It's because it's not that they are, it's a stubborn action that let me just be on the street and sell my things from here. It's the space they have from which they can also make a living and ensure survival and reasonable welfare for themselves and their children. Some of those people have been on those streets for about 15, 20 years now. They've educated their children from there up to university, and now all of a sudden you're telling them to get off the streets. Creating order in the city, especially our capital city, Kampala, is a welcome thing. It's a very commendable undertaking by the authority and those that manage the city. But it must be done in lieu of those that are in it already. Because, especially in the way our situation is, because this particular government has been in charge of Uganda and in charge of Kampala there for 40 years. So the issue of vendors on the streets is not an issue of the president who just left, is the one who allowed people to just take over the city and now we have to deal with it again. No, this has been a scenario that has been with this system, with this government for 40 years. So who let them get there? This same government. Now, by having allowed this kind of disorder in the city, you now don't just come up and decide, okay, I'm going to create order, whatever come, I don't care. You must put in consideration where do you take these people from here, because they must keep earning a living. They are not there to spend time during the day. They've been there trying to earn a living so that they can live quite reasonable livelihood. So
when you make a mistake for 40 years, you can't correct it.
how you correct it matters. If you are, if you're the one who has made a mistake, you say, I am sorry, I did this kind of mistake, but this is how I propose to rectify it. Then the other party can say, apology noted, I see how you're trying to do it, to try and equalize the situation, but I was of the view that we can do this and this and this, so that I can take your apology in good faith. So, to answer your question direct, I would not have supported the idea of getting the vendors off the streets in the manner they have done. I would support the idea of creating order in our capital city, but it must be in consideration of those that we share the city with. You just said, when you said our, my understanding was that you meant that the capital city is ours, all as Uganda.
Yes, of course.
The vend on the street, this capital city belongs to them.
But Mayor Aspirant, I am assuming you will even come back next time. It's easy to say, oh, you should have done, but without specifics. So how should they have done it? I mean,
one,
yeah.
You take a register of all the vendors on these streets. Fortunately, they have a bit of organization. They have their own groupings and things like that. You can't wake up, Mr. Baguma, one day and you say, me, I have put my store here on Yamu Street. No, they actually know who is where and who sells their things from where. So you would take a register of all these people on these streets as early as 3 years back, so that you avoid those that could take advantage of the process. And know that on Yamu Street I have 50 vendors. On Barton Street I have 100 vendors. On William Street I have 200 vendors. Then you draw up spaces where, how can we transfer these people to another space where they can be able to still earn a living. Then you organize that kind of space and those kind of spaces, so that once you evacuate them, you already have a plan of where they are going. You plan over time.
They've been told to go to markets. They've been told to use the what do you call it?
Which markets?
The word.
Markets have no space. These markets are full.
Oh, really?
Yes, these markets are full. So where are they going? Which markets are they going to?
They are full. There's no space.
And number two, a stall of 300,000 per month, 350 for somebody who's been maybe paying 30,000, 50,000 for security as they sell their things. That's a very big shift, Mr. Baguma. It's a very big shift. So yes, the idea could welcome, but how many would afford those stalls, considering the kind of business they were undertaking?
Chemonges.
Like I said, I'm not against order in the city, but it must be done with consideration. That person is also Ugandan like me. You could drive your car, you want order in the city, you could have the power to have a shop in Adema shopping mall, but this is also still a Ugandan, and he or she is simply trying and living, and it's the duty of government, the duty of those in charge of the city to try and rectify the problem in a more organized, more considerate, more humane manner.
Chemonges, your work is to do policy proposals, to draft policies for leaders, to do policy analysis. Isn't it correct to throw vendors off the street and create order?
I think that in principle, for a Kampala that we all desire, a city of both national and international standing, order is inevitable. And I think that the decision that has been taken is long overdue. It's just that I think as a country we do not have proper leaders who can take decisive actions. I think the country is short of leaders that can take firm and decisive action, because we do have vendors is just one of the many areas that probably require more action in terms of putting some order in that area. The borders, the encroachment in
somebody was arguing that borders actually vendors, that they just vend a service of transporting
No, actually,
of transporting people.
you see, there is a bit of a difference between hawkers and vendors. So hawkers are more are transitional traders. They are always moving from one place to another, as you know, as they sell their things. So they do not have a specific place where they sell their goods and services. For vendors, they are more or less a bit structured. They have stalls. They have semi-permanent. Even they could be permanent places where they are doing the selling their services.
Therefore, you have some products that are hawkers and some that are vendors.
That's the
So it depends. You see, because you see, that again is as per either it could be a service. It could be products that they sell.
Because we also have hawkers of different types in the night, who hawk other products, other services. Yeah.
Government took is good, but it's not a sustainable approach. You see, it is going to be a running battle. I've already seen. I was in town here, and I could see some vendors already back on the streets. They are selling. So it's going to be a cat and mouse game. They come a bit, and then when the enforcement agencies appear, they disappear. But also recognizing that there is also a demand. There is also a demand factor involved in this. It's something that you cannot ignore. So I think that there are probably more better ways in which we could have this become more sustainable. Because you see, if we are done with hawkers, move to borders, it's likely to cause a bit of a crisis in the country. Because this is not just a trade issue; it's also a security issue. You throw off these guys the streets. Where are they going? They'll come and be part of the of crime and all this kind of thing. So there is need to ensure that there is balance. So, but also, you know, the question of vendors and hawking is not just a Ugandan thing. It's a global thing that every country is dealing with at different levels. And so there are ways I think that could be done better. I've looked at countries that have done and made some headway in this direction. And at a policy level, there are laws, Hawking and Vendors Act. There are policies that have already to streamline this sort of trade. And every country really takes a different approach depending on what suits them. But there are ways in which, for example, we could, as opposed to sending them completely away, we could gazette probably timelines. Say maybe these hawkers could trade in the morning, in the evening. We could also gazette specific streets, so not just having them everywhere. So they could, whichever streets really, after discussions with them, because it's also a stakeholder sort of action. It's not just a government thing. So engage and see which would be the possible streets that could work for them. The other really is around ensuring that there could be some level of self-enforcement amongst the hawkers and the vendors themselves, including the night hawking of things, where you do, because you see, these people know themselves, at least at a larger level. They know this is Baguma, they know that Sylvia and the rest. So working through those associations, people who are operating, if we agree that there are 5 streets that we are going to allow these vendors to operate in, create some level of either they could be circles, they could be association, or whatever sort of structure, to ensure that they have clear leadership and they are able to regulate themselves, so that you also reduce the pressure on the enforcement. We do not have enough enforcement individuals or entities that. And then lastly, I think is on the question of the economy. When we look at hawkers and vendors, you are likely to look at them as a problem. But also I think there could be benefits that we could have from them, and tax them so that they're able to contribute to the economy of the country. Have a very clear register. Of course, there are always new vendors and new hawkers coming on board, but through those structures, we can have proper mechanism of identifying all of them, and they're able to pay that money, and that money could go into the coffers and contribute to the economy. And then lastly, maybe Baguma, is around the question of the growing population that we do have. I think that the population growth in Uganda today is not commensurate to the available opportunities that should be able to deal with many of these, including the question of planning. So you have a bigger percentage of, let's deal first of all with the elite, those who have gone to school. So you have a huge percentage of Ugandans finishing school, and they have nowhere to go.
So whole graduation week now.
Yeah, it's a graduation week. So, and there are very many, so where are they going? If they are not going to be unemployed, probably they'll find ways in being useful within the economy. You'll find them in the border sector, in all those informal sectors. As you know, our economy is largely informal, and it's also largely rural. So there is a disparity in terms of the population growth vis-a-vis the opportunities and proper planning that every country should be able to have. So this comes out as a symptom that we're dealing with. So I think that even as we move, I know that this is not the ultimate decision that has reached. Because you see, the KCC is going to continue this running up and down with the vendors. So and as a result of the problem, there will be more sustainable solution. But it's a good step where we are at. It's a good conversation to start having. Otherwise, we cannot have what we've been having in the city.
Dr. Daniel, some have argued, you probably have heard this argument, that post-election, there is no worry now. Guys can be thrown off the street, and there is no electoral impact. You've had the arguments from your colleagues about the possibility of would have been a different approach. You also have a bit of an eye on how strategically the other global geopolitics have approached some of these issues. What's your take? And shouldn't we solve this problem of vendors and hawkers off our street and organize our city?
Comrade Baguma, allow me the attitude to a little bit historize this topic. That by 1890, around there, we were trying to form what we now call Kampala city. That around that time, because that was the colonial era of Captain Rugarama, we had Entebbe as the administrative city, if you like, and then Kampala as the capital commercial hub. That by 1962, when Uganda regained independence, we adopted Kampala as our capital city. And that around that time, yes, we had 7 hills. Kampala was composed of roughly 7 hills. Mengo, Rubaga, Kororo, Makerere, etc. But then we were talking about population density of just a very small number per square kilometer. That now the present day Kampala capital city, with the legal framework, the regulator under which it is regulated, the Kampala Capital City Authority Act, and the sub-registrations like these ordinances, the administrative ordinances, the physical planning ordinances, the health ordinances, and what have you, is under which Kampala Capital City is governed, are extremely compromised by the political architecture. That the political architecture here in Kampala particularly is such that you are going to have, or for that matter actually, we have the mayor with the deputy, the MPs, about 6 or so of them, or in Kampala here, because every division has an MP, that you have the minister and his deputy, you have, and the minister for Kampala, Baguma, that you have the Lord, they are called Lord councillors, very powerful people. Then you have got divisional mayors. So the Kampala capital city, what would have passed elsewhere administratively is extremely under the pressure, under the political pressure that every political leader is a big person, big woman, big man, and whatever decision is taken in the, for instance, Ruchiko here, in the KCCA, is either, because it is mainly controlled by the opposition, that is another dimension also, will be disputed and implementation will become a problem. So we are talking about a capital city which is rumored to have a master plan. A master plan to do with drainage, a master plan to do with commercial structures, a master plan to do with where to locate a factory processing plant, to do with residentials, but we have now got a mixture of residences with commercial entities. Commercial entities with factories. That where you have got residences, you also have got processing plants which emit all sorts and manner of smoke harmful to the population. In other words, the laws that would are supposed to control how the city operates have not been allowed to operate, and I've mentioned them. The politics within the capital city has overtaken the administrative way of running a city. And in here, when I was looking at your question, Comrade Baguma, the question is very intentional. You are intentional in framing this question. You presuppose that Kampala is disorderly already.
In fact, in our view as a production team, we have no doubt.
Yes, you see, and I want to know, I want to believe that the viewers are aware, because by looking at this, the question on the screen, it tells you that already in our mind we have it that Kampala is disorderly, and we are asking, therefore, is attempting, struggling to chase away the hawkers and the vendors a solution to bringing Kampala back to order? So Kampala is disorderly in what form? Even before we talk about, okay, let's have now the hawkers and vendors as one aspect that make Kampala disorderly. We have Kampala with poor drainage system. We have Kampala with politics that has become a problem. We have Kampala with high on and off crime, increasing crime rate. We have Kampala with road network, which is, there are more potholes than there is a proper road. If you don't fall in a pothole, you ask yourself, what is happening here? Have they just repaired or something like that? We have a Kampala capital city that if you compare it with, because we have other cities on the African continent, and by God's grace we have been able to travel there and see, that you compare it with Kigali, for instance, just our next door neighbor here. You compare it with Algiers. You compare it with Windhoek here in Namibia. You ask yourself, why are we in a situation in which we are? Can't we get better? I don't want to compare it.
There is an attempt to
yes,
be
absolutely.
better.
I'm coming to that.
Yeah.
There, you see, I don't want even to go to other cities like Copenhagen, cities like Singapore, because we know what Singapore was. I was checking here. And Singapore, by 1970, Uganda and Kampala was better than Singapore, both in income and at the same time in general political and other nature of administration. Were better. To the extent that we had cities, because this time we are discussing Kampala, we had cities, I mean towns, like Mbare town, that was considered to be the best, the cleanest in the whole of East Africa. Where are we now? Go to Mbare now and see. Therefore, for me, when I look at this Kampala, and the attempt, so far the hawkers and vendors have been tampered with, and I'm deliberately using the word tampering, because tomorrow they will be back. I think it was Brother Burobuto who said they will be back with Chemonges, at least one of them. And I agree, they will be back, because I have seen some signs and symptoms of them. The avocados, the women with avocados are coming back. I have a friend of mine, about a year now, when I was in Kigali. You know, the majority of the people in Kigali, they were here in Kampala. They were here, our brother. They just went and he was telling me that if you must get Kampala clean, if you must get Kampala in order, and maybe before I forget this, a city, this Juba city you see, the boys who planned it were our KCC boys here. We got them from here. They are the ones who designed the road network. You can never go to Juba, which is all, that's the, by the way, doesn't have even tarmac. But you can never go to Juba city. You take a road and you go into Mr. Chigungo's home. Somehow the road will be wide enough with drainage. They are left with tarmacking, but it will lead you to another road, connecting a road. Your Kampala does not have a transport system, tram, train, organized buses. So everybody wants to look big. The borders here, actually you survive. Every day we survive borders, every day.
So we are going to leave the hawkers in the street.
At the end of the day, even borders are hawkers. Yes. At the end of the day, therefore, Comrade Baguma, I want to say that the attempt by KCCA, if God has finally touched their hearts, and the political and administrative leadership of KCCA and elsewhere have realized that the starting point is to get rid of the hawkers and the vendors, who must include, my friends, the borders. Let that not be reversed. There is elements of sanity in the city that now these people are off the streets. The only thing I want to conclude with is to agree with my colleagues that we are talking about our sisters our uncles, our brothers, our friends. This is how, unfortunately, how they have been earning a living. There is no development that comes without socio-economic costs. The cost of cleaning up Kampala and bringing it to order will involve tampering for some time with the income of those who have been earning whatever income they have been earning, whether it has been for 30 years, 40 years, 15 years. You have to interfere with that in order to get back to a trajectory that is going to make Kampala a city that can be talked about.
You know, Yamu.
Yes, sir.
Yamu Burobuto,
You wanted to be mayor. You've raised these issues, and you have indicated your disillusionment with the way this is handled. But that Dr. Rugarama says there has to be socio-economic costs, and this is where we are.
Yeah, sure enough. I mean, you could say use humbler with the word, but you could even say collateral damage. It comes with collateral damage. I agree entirely. But you see, when you say that for example, how many buildings do we have in Kampala that have been constructed without approval by KCCA or not on the master plan as we know it, and they are all over Kampala, but because they are owned by those that are so up there in terms of the rich-poor curve, they are untouchable. And the issues that Mr. Rugarama is raising, and perhaps also the production team, are the vendors the issue for order or disorder in Kampala as them only? Of course, the answer is no. But Mr. Rugarama is saying that even if the answer is no, but maybe since they are part of the problem, and maybe there is now a determined position by government and whoever is in charge of Kampala to rectify what we call a problem in terms of the disorder, and they are beginning there, that well and good. Maybe they will get to the others first, later. But we had a scenario here in just behind us here at the Nachivubo channel, where a businessman started building something on the channel, and then KCCA was saying they have not cleared him. Also NEMA was saying they have not cleared him. But the building was raised of the building. The construction of the building was moving at a very fast pace. So I asked myself a question. Now, if KCCA you have not approved that, and NEMA you have not, do we have police in the country, in the capital city? You as KCCA, why haven't you reported this person to police who is encroaching on what is ideally your land?
No, even KCCA has got an enforcement. They can stop you.
Yes, they could. Yes, if they could not. Now, if you see, if a mwananchi who is on the street sees that, and then because they are vulnerable, because they have nobody to protect them, they are easy to deal with, they simply see themselves as victims of the greed of pretense that we are trying to put the city in order. Begin with those. If they put down 6 buildings that are out of the master plan in town here and put them down, whether they are apartments or they are big arcades, and they put them down, trust me, even this vendor will know that our government is serious on creating order.
Information.
Yes.
In Nairobi, about 2 years ago, usually go to Nairobi, I don't know if you saw that. The main street, you see, right from this where there are so many embassies and what have you, all the way through the Nairobi University, up to the airport. including that road that goes to the, is it what hospital? Nairobi Hospital. There is what they call, is it?
The riparian?
The highway something that people during the time of Moi who were in government, they built in that reserve. So there was a deliberate policy of breaking. I looked at the structures which were being brought down, and you know they would do. They would break the 22-story structure and give you a bill to pay for breaking your building.
Thank you very much.
Burobuto, I think we also need to talk about the things that are possible. But we also shouldn't be talking utopia here.
Yeah, but
we are in Kampala city. We how come construction of those things happened in Nairobi and it took 25 years to break them? Yeah. So maybe that's where we are. But you see, I don't want to cut you short, Burobuto, but I want to start from there. You see, I don't want us to discuss utopia. Do we really think that the things that happen in Kampala, the people who are viewing us,
buildings be broken?
Is it possible now that buildings can be broken down? And then
was still breaking them.
And let me say this, because you have just said, gentlemen, that the vendors are already coming back. So if the people who you claim are weak at the lower end are coming back, so let's go for a short break. We are going for a short commercial break, viewers, and don't go away. I really want to take on this, gentlemen.
In a time where every decision matters, where leadership, governance, and accountability define our future, we break down the social and economic issues affecting everyday citizens. This is the show that asks the hard questions. Beyond politics, we focus on facts, analyses, and real solutions. Join the conversation, because the future begins at the bottom line. In a time where every decision matters, where leadership, governance, and accountability define our future, we break down the social and economic issues affecting everyday citizens. This is the show that asks the hard questions. Beyond politics, we focus on facts, analyses, and real solutions. Join the conversation, because the future begins at the bottom line.
It is the bottom line, still Family TV, the Church of Uganda Television, and I am thanking you for staying with us. Just after that short break, Baguma Richard still hosting you up to the hour of 11. And we are looking at the question of order or lack of it in our capital city, Kampala, and the decision to throw away the hawkers and the vendors from the street, where some say they have been eking out a living, and now their lives have stopped. There are many arguments about this, and in studio, Yamu Burobuto, Chemonges, and Dr. Daniel Rugarama with me to talk about these issues. But before we went for the break, like I promised, I said I would just go back to you, Yamu. You wanted to be mayor for this city. Maybe you'll try again. You are ED for a think tank, progressive one. And here you are talking about the issue of these people. They should not have been thrown out the way they were. They are coming back. Some of you are talking about what could be utopia, that it happened in Nairobi, so these buildings here should be broken. And really? You think that these things are going to happen here? Who's the building are you going to touch?
Okay, yeah, and that's exactly my point. I'd said that because they are coming back, they are not as weak as I want to present them. They are not coming back from a point of strength. They are coming back from a point of desperation. There's nothing else they can do anyway. So let them, if they fire bullets on them on the street, better, because in any case, what else can they do?
If we die, we die.
Because they've already been sent to their deathbed. So we rather die here trying to see if we can change anything. Now, when, of course, I want to believe that Mr. Baguma's question is a rhetoric question and may be aimed to certain quarters to try and open their minds, not necessarily to my views, because why should it be utopia? Because the vendors, what is protecting the enforcers, those that have thrown the vendors off the streets, is the law. And the hawkers, they are backed by the policy and the law. Now, if you construct your arcade, however big it is, outside the boundaries of the law, then the government, unless you're saying that government is saying it has some powers to enforce some parts of the law on particular people, and on others it doesn't have the power to do so because they are bigger than the law or bigger than the country or bigger than the policy. It would be extremely embarrassing if government took such a position that, you know, we cannot break down a businessman's building. How can we do that? It would be extremely embarrassing to have that kind of argument, because it would therefore mean that you will be enforcing the law on those that are weak. You think you can enforce the law on those, but those that you fear to antagonize will go away against the law. But maybe you have a point, because in any case that natural channel is up and now people are in. But does that stop us from saying what should be? No. We must continue aspiring to the ideal as we face our realities. Now, when you for example, when Rugarama expounded on the disorder in the city, the border industry, the drainage system, you see, easy for citizenry to have belief and trust in their government, even undertake certain sacrifices, as long as they trust and believe in that government. If there has been a culture over time to say that when the government says this, it means it and does it, you would find citizens, even when they have a certain policy or a certain enforcement, will disturb them, but generally willingly they will say it's for the greater good of the country. But where the citizenry feels like everybody is on their own, then it will be very difficult to enforce and implement these kind of very controversial and unpopular policies, however good they might be for the greater progress of our country and our city.
But the Timothy, you see, policy and policy implementation don't necessarily right. Yeah, the policies. In fact, it is, in my view, not shortage of policies, regulations, or laws about hawkers, about vendors, because they are regulations, they are laws. In fact, even they are written, coded very well in our law, and the things that should be done.
KCC Act is very alive.
So implementation is, in my view, where we have all these contradictions. And some of you people seem to speak as if you are not living in this city and this country. That some of the things you think are going to happen or should happen, we do not have precedents. Why would we think that now this issue of throwing off vendors is in any way going to create order?
Absolutely. Thank you, Baguma. You know, speaking about and talking about policies, so there are maybe 3 angles that I would want to look at that. The decision of government not to take action on anything is policy. Or the decision of government...
Say that again. Say that again.
The decision of government not to take action or to act on anything is policy. Or the decision of government to put up in place or to take an action on it, that's also policy. The decision of government to have policies in place and to singularly work extremely hard to frustrate those policies is also a decision that government
It is a policy.
It's also a policy. That you do put up a policy and you work extremely hard to frustrate the success of that sort of It's also a decision, a very deliberate decision, and the assumption that every law or policies that are put in place, therefore acting on, is an illusion. And so where we are at as a country, I think that there are quite a number of the challenges between the desire and what is possible in the current dynamics. And I think that this is at a political level. It starts and ends at the political, especially when it comes to implementation of these sort of policies, laws, and the broader governance structure. And so I think that I'm happy for me to see that there is something happening, because the desire to have a city that is free of that is orderly is simply a desire for now. As of what we have today is something that we've deliberately worked hard to find ourselves where we are at. It's where we are at is not by mistake, by the way. It's not that we found ourselves where the hawkers and vendors are full Our roads are full of potholes. Talk about the failure to regulate buildings in the city and in rural areas. It has been a deliberate effort, us working to get where we are at. The struggle we are having today is how do we undo all this? And it may take us a bit of time. For specifically KCCA, it's not going to be a quick fix. For situation of KCCA, we've had different leaders, and probably some of those that are remarkable in the recent past. Like Jennifer Musisi, she did her part, got frustrated, and
went to America.
And
told her to leave her people.
Yeah, and she decided to go elsewhere. On matters corruption, again, we've seen institutions such as that of IGG attempting to come a bit hard, and they have been reminded on where the line is drawn. And so it's very clear that where we are at today, there is abundance of not having to act on what is right, and probably this is purely on political mileage. That today, if KCC attempted to organize the border, not to send them away, but find a mechanism for which they would operate.
They would tried and failed.
Yeah. So yeah, and that is likely to recur. And so I think that we need to find ourselves in a place that, as a country, we recognize that we've reached at a place where there is a problem, and that we can start working progressively to address. But unfortunately, as it is currently within the political ambits. The examples that comrades here have given of Nairobi, where people who had constructed huge buildings on the reserve and on the riparian areas, along the rivers, and buildings worth billions and is brought down. It's a political decision. Where markets need to be reorganized, where the border sector needs to be.
It's utopia.
It's so. I think those are some of the factors but it is possible. That it's possible. I think that it may take us a bit of time before we get there.
Dr. Rugarama, in one of the other platforms where I participate, one of the panelists had a different argument. Said that there was need to keep the deployment on the street, to manage possible dissent as fallout from the elections and some of the other things that were happening. And the easiest reason to maintain the deployment without criticism was to say we are enforcing hawker eviction. In fact, her argument was that there was markedly no quarrel from the hawkers. They all, in a very decisive way, very organized way, all disappeared. That this was negotiated, and after a couple of days of deployment, which will be now official and justified, the hawkers will come back and business will be as usual. So there was a conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, and I was looking at it and I'm like, okay, so do we see anyone conspiring with anyone to make believe that we are now going to have order in the city and this is decisive?
Well, you see, in politics, first of all, we build hypotheses. And especially in a country which is highly politicized like Uganda, anything passes. So somebody in a typical Kampala to come up and say that we were trying to manage, or for that matter, KCCA and the political leadership is trying to manage the maybe sentiments as a consequence of post-election impact, and for that matter, therefore, the hawkers, vendors, willingly just left the streets is something I'm not going to buy into. I have taken a bit of time to listen to study. There is, for instance, my brother said something about the markets, available markets. And when I was listening to the political leadership, I mean the leadership, KCC leadership, and the Minsa Kabanda, Honorable Minsa Kabanda, they clearly said the available space in our different markets is not enough. It's there, first of all, the stores are there, but they are not enough. Question is, even the few which are there in hundreds or thousands, have they been occupied? Then my other interest was, because there is an element of money, payment, and my brother Burobuto talked about it. He said, you see, somebody who has been managing just a small basket of tomatoes, you are saying a store is something like 320. Where are you going to get that kind of money? I can understand that. But again, listening to the political leadership and the leadership at KCCA, it was that, including the markets much in the area, they said these stores are free. That is information that can be verified. That they are free, you just walk in, you register yourself, they verify you, present your credentials, and then you take the store. Now, there is usually in institutions.
And then there are spaces, yet stores are free. Yet stores are free.
But you see, in circumstances, yes, sometimes it happens, but I may not quickly buy that because the people may still be doing politics. But you see, in the situations where the political leadership is poor, you see, it all starts, I agree with Chemonges when writing about the problem of Nigeria. Is a book titled The Problem of Nigeria, and he fixes it to politics. I could have as well extrapolated and expanded and said the problem of Africa is political leadership. Because we are here, we are neither here nor there. Today we are saying hawkers, vendors off. Tomorrow somebody is going to come and contradict the very thing. Now that drives me to my other point of this inconsistency. The fear also manifests in the public administration. Now the public administration, the public officers fear to take decisions because of consequences. During the break, you were talking about it is hot there. And indeed it's very hot there. When somebody gets a job in a typical African setting as a public servant, the people who actually the public service people, the time they spend on undermining each other and setting traps, they call it, if you didn't know, I will tell you, they call it okubiso muzinga. That the commissioner so and so, what happened? They hit him with a missile. And missile, what did he do? They will trick you, you will sign something, they will say, this is what we are looking for. They will run and take it to the president. So you have got public service, high-ranking officers who are very technical. By the way, we have very good, competent people here. Commissioners, principal officers, directors, competent. But time and again, you look at the attrition rate, the rate at which directors, commissioners, assistant commissioners, etc., principal officers, I'm not saying some of them are not serious, they are, because courts have said so. But there are others, when you go deep to look at their files, I can assure you, it was a question of setting them up such that they can take the positions. Now, when you get public service that is very lethargic, that is very allergic to taking decisions, then you have got work that is not going to be done. And a lot of work, including here in Kampala, is not going to be done.
And
when
the
John from
hawkers
CC
will come back.
Oh yes, when John from CC started doing the correct thing, I remember it was a live call-in. John from CC was in the studio, the former ED, former ED of KCCA, and a caller, one of the respectable guys here with the businesses and what have you, said, "I'm going to kill you." on radio.
Really?
Then John from CC was like, "Even you are going to die. Who said you are going to be there forever? If I die, I die." You see, do you see where we had reached? On the life of, there was the first, I think the very first Commissioner General of Revenue. You remember that, Madam Albright? The Ghanaian, something like that.
The madam was Muzungu.
Yes, the Muzungu called Albright, something like that, the name.
Aslan.
Oh, there you go. You remember the attempt on her life? Simply because she was too tough. Why can this one talk? So they were sending a message. Now, you have got a highly polarized civil service, fearful, with political interference, and we expect to fix Kampala. How can we fix Kampala? We have got a Kampala of approximately 23,000 people per square kilometer. Such many people. The rate at which rural migrates to urban, and to do what? To drive border.
Vending and hawking.
Vending and hawking. There has got to be a policy. God help me. People understand what I'm saying. This business of Kampala is for everybody, is political talk. Kampala is not for everybody. No.
How will you choose who should come?
Let me tell you, we even need to take it an extra mile. That you don't just simply come to Kampala and you begin putting up houses along the river banks. The guy say these houses are not on plan. People cannot afford to stay in Kampala, and when you talk like that, then people, when they come to these forums, you must be socially, talk socially and politically correct. Be correct. We cannot. The reason as to why we have got these slums of this nature and being allowed is simply because we have got weak regulations on how the urban centers are supposed to be habited. We need to strengthen them. If you cannot afford to be in Kampala, for heaven's sake, there are other places where you can be. And you even make a better living there.
We want to come to Kampala and enjoy this one. Bwana Chemonges, some people have argued that there is, even with this current spike in crime, in and around the city and probably some other areas, that when you chase the hawkers and vendors of the streets, you actually are going to drive crime even higher. Yet the people who are clearing the streets are saying, in fact, that's a way of managing, of reducing crime on the city streets. So, which is which?
No, I think it's around the question of planning. You know, there are criminals that resort to crime as a function of work. There are those that choose to resort to crime as a last resort. When they are pushed to the wall and they still have to survive and have life continue, they find themselves there. There are a section of others who as the political class has used and continue to use for political campaigns and all this, and the campaigns are done and they are now redundant. Where do you put all that energy? Where do you put all that confidence that you had given to some of these gangs or groups of individuals? during the campaign. So all that, and I think that all this has there's a very direct relation between unemployment, lack of work, and probably some of the governance decisions that we take, and the likely rise in crime. And crime may not necessarily be within the city center here. It could stretch even back to the villages, where you have the people who left villages to come and make a living in the city, and the city has failed. So they go back, and the village is also something else, and so it also becomes a problem there. And so I think that looking at all those dynamics, it cannot be that sending them away is a function to reduce crime. I think that that's simply a way to increase it. And I think that it's important since KCC has started this journey. I think it would be wise to handle one by one. It's extremely dangerous to combine. You are dealing with the vendors, combine with borders, combine people who are staying in the water. It becomes too much problems. So I think it will be important to deal one by one. Look at the challenges that you incur as you execute, and have that enforced, and probably it will inform the kind of decisions that you take subsequently. But I think that one of the things that continue to lack and probably compromises both the ability of leaders to make decisive decisions, that you have, let's say, a head of an institution failing or fearing to make a very decisive decision that is likely to affect a bigger number of people, is the lack of the political protection that they are guaranteed. That if you had, for example, the executive director of KCCA making some of these very firm decisions, the young people will say shaking tables with very expensive drinks, you are likely to not be spared. Again, I agree with what Comrade Rugarama says. In government, I think also, especially at the commissioner and at the director level, you use close to 70%, and I think I was discussing with one of my colleagues, use close to 60-70% of your time in that office to protect the office, as opposed to doing the work. Exactly. All these things that are being said, you somehow wake up in the morning and almost the whole day you're trying to ensure that you manage all those factors.
They even give me a point and say, you go slowly, you found that office there, and you're going to leave it.
So it definitely undermines how decisions are reached at, but also how service delivery eventually is looked. But ultimately, I think the solution as it is today lies in the political class, and it must start from the topmost office. That if we say it, we want to deal with corruption in the country, it must start from top there. That it can't be IGG somewhere here making decisions, and 3 days later you have the boss saying, please go slow. You have the ED KCCA maybe making a decision to find some order in the city, and the following day you have the head of the boss saying, no, leave my people alone, let's see how to deal with this. I think it must start from the top so that all these functions are streamlined. Because we, as we've highlighted here, Kampala has a master plan on the transport system, on the drainage, on residential, the industrial areas. Physical planning, broadly speaking, including the approvals that Yamu is talking about. But we've successfully failed to have anything progress. Not that nothing is moving on, but looking at the challenges that we are facing, it's a very deliberate effort to find ourselves here, but I think the solution lies on the political will to have many of these tough decisions to be undertaken.
Now, the one who can claim something of being a politician on this panel is Yamu. Yamu has done a little bit of politicking, I think, more than the rest of us. Even as a student, he was politicking. And he has been trying to be mayor. He has tried to be mayor of this city. The buck seems to stop at your end, you the politicians. But this is what is often said. You guys say one thing when you are campaigning, forget it after you have been put in office. But also, you are decisive only in areas which will make you popular, so you become populist. And you are looking at the next election. So immediately you are elected, you are no longer thinking service delivery, whatever you are thinking, how do you get the next election? Now, some of the argument has been that because now you are in a period of transition, this action can be taken. They have a lame duck administration, because by May it will be gone, and you have an administration that hasn't yet come in. First of all, from your observation and participation, isn't it true that what you guys say when you're campaigning oftentimes changes when you get into office? That's one. But two, that realistically, politicians have to follow electoral trends. And it's okay to shift from here to there. Yeah.
Yes. Certainly, I will not say I'm not guilty for doing some politicking, but I want to maybe edit your phrase and say I've been engaged in a little bit of leadership than politicking. And what you're talking about is where the difference between politicking or a politician and a leader, politics and leadership, and a politician and a leader comes in. Because you must marry your interest with also the greater good as a leader. As a politician, most times really it's about your interest. As long as I can keep the people on my side, who cares? Do I even use those roads anyway? Do I even use that Kampala? I don't. So I'm not so affected. My interests are not so affected. And if I take this action, it will greatly affect my popularity and therefore my ability to keep my political power and things like that. So I understand where you're coming from in general terms. And certainly when you discuss the evacuation of vendors from the city streets, simply a symptom. We are discussing a very small tenet of a bigger problem. It's indeed true. Even now, like you're concluding the conversation as you bring it back to the politicians, where the power base is, where decisions can be given life, where implementation can be given a green light or not. And like Chemonges said, I think is technical in his submission because of his appreciation of policy. It might not be written, but like I said at the start, we have been under reasonably same leadership for 40 years. And he has said from his argument...
And reasonably the same leadership in the city for 15 years?
Yes, when you consider the one who's been there. And when you use his argument, therefore we've gotten here because those that have been in charge have allowed it. And you see, again, when you say 15 years, you bring me back again to the small scale of the discussion, but it's much bigger than that where you brought it, where the real decisions can be determined.
certainly cabinet has a very big say in and also takes a big burden and a big blame in what our city looks like and what it can look like going forward. Now, it's my honest view, really, and no wonder I use the word utopia, that the current leadership, in lieu of the 40 years it's been charged, cannot be the one that will make Kampala what you would desire it to be as a capital city of Uganda. It has lost the moral ground for that, it has lost the trust, and it lacks the integrity to actually see through these fundamental decisions that can take us to where we would want Kampala city to be. Two, you see, in the long run, we could think of goals and ideas such as Lagos and Abuja, Dodoma and Dar es Salaam. What for me I think is now, to borrow your word, Mr. Baguma, what is realistic is to say that, okay, we have faulted on implementation of these laws or these policies for a very long time, and we now find ourselves in this kind of scenario. Beginning today, let's try to organize where we are and ensure that going forward we now implement the regulations to the letter so that this problem does not get bigger. But since we have a blame in having grown it where it is, we cannot enforce like we are not part of creating this problem. We must be sensitive in the way we try to rectify it because we had a hand in it. But going forward, let us now be stricter on the regulations so that this problem doesn't become uncontainable. But in terms of long term, think a new capital city. This would be my honest view, both short term and long term, because you are clearing these streets so that the Kampala capital city, and this is to try to debase Mr. Rugarama's point, you're trying to create order in the city for who? Are you saying that you, Baguma, me, Yamu, Chemonges, are the only ones entitled to the capital city? Even this vendor is a Ugandan. So what does he want? To make a living or to see his city clean and orderly? The answer to that question for him is simple. I would rather first survive than, but you, Baguma, me, Yam, because I can survive not on that street, therefore my priority is that once I look through my office on the tall building, I should see the green like you are seeing people celebrating. But we must, I agree that there must be a cost when you're going through development and things like that. But there must be a human element involvement. The example, the idea that Mr. Rugarama is suggesting that some people don't deserve to be in the capital city. Well, when you, I'm sure that when you interrogate it a little bit further, maybe you could understand his logic. But is he saying that therefore there would be boundaries, barricades, like the ones Trump is putting to stop Mexicans from crossing to America around the city? Then when his relative comes to see him, they call him at one of the gates and say, "Sir, you know, your nephew from the village is on gate number 1, but so we don't allow these kind of people into Kampala. Please let him know the time you'll come to gate number 4. So you cannot think like that if you are a leader and we are in this kind of problem. You must be, yes, I agree, more realistic about it, but you have to also be considerate. You are dealing with the groupings of society that have different interests, and rightly so. I mean, if I am in this building, yes, I would want to, I don't begrudge those that hold that argument, but I would wish they would also understand the other side, because they are not just coming stubbornly because they want to be there. They are trying to survive. So we must find a way, we find a balance there.
Dr. Rugarama.
Everyone says we must find solutions. I would like us to start narrowing towards those proposed solutions that we have. We have had this talk of a new city, and I think this talk has been here since the late Idi Amin. The Nakasongora proposal. I have been to Dodoma. I have been to Abuja. I'm not so sure that the hawkers are not there. I'm not so sure. Abuja too. I'm not even sure that the jam is not there. In fact, in Abuja, I think not too long ago, it was.
It would have been worse in Lagos if they had not found.
Maybe if they had not moved,
yes. Or in Dar es Salaam, they had not found the Dodoma.
But if it is about population growth, I do not see this population not growing. Yeah, so yeah, what are these, Comrade Rugarama, these solutions that we are talking about?
No, I certainly hear what Brother Burobuto is saying, and I have carefully listened to Brother Chemonges. I want to hedge myself. For the record, I am not in any way saying that people should not come to cities, no. But it all boils down to policy. You see, there is when you are in a situation which you have brought yourself into, and you realize that this is not my place. You simply get what we call self-phased. You phase yourself out. If the regulation is that the borders stop in Ntinda, how are you going to drive a border to post office here in Kampala? How? Just how? If we have said that all the baskets, avocado, those, because we all eat avocado, tomatoes, and what have you, no basket comes into the capital here. Whoever, whether you are in office on the 11th floor of workers' house, afterwards, please make sure, these are the deliberate policies I am talking about. Make sure you drive to, if you are staying in Kawempe, there is Kawempe market. That's where you're going to buy the tomatoes. That's where you're going. And indeed, the market is there and the tomatoes are there. Because see, it's at two levels. Because somebody who brings, you get the temptation of buying the avocado from a street vendor because it is here, it is near you. You see?
It is convenient,
absolutely,
but it's also cheap.
That's the thing. So if we structured it that way, policy-wise, that these are the markets, everybody is there, and if you attempt to do the contrary, these are the repercussions, I can assure you. You see, we are not trying to propose some of these things out of the blue. This is not textbook. We are saying that Kigali was there even when Kigali City was there even when, for instance, Uncle Paulo Kagame was a toddler, a baby. When he came as a president, when the Yarmanas and what have you were there, then later on Paulo Kagame came as a president. See what he has done. He has not built another city. It is Kigali. Go to Kigali and see how it is now. We used to have as a working relationship the Pan-African movement, observer status with the Central Communist Party of China, and we sometimes would move there. We still do, but not as frequent as we used the other time. But the times I have moved to China, the capital city, Beijing, up to now, they are breaking structures inside the capital city. When you move, like they were where these Olympic Games, that street where they filled the stadium for Olympic Games, there are structures which are being broken up to now, and they are putting up new ones. What is the regulation? You cannot put up a structure which does not have a certain given number of parking lots. And you see, there is this thinking which I want to disabuse, that This is for China. China, for heaven's sake, became the China we know now around 1975, 78, the economic miracle. Who tells you? This Singapore that we were talking about, Singapore, what was Singapore, the city, by 1970, 72? What was it and how is it now? Deliberate policies. When you read the book from first word by Lee, the late now, the first prime minister, very clearly he even tells you that when they deliberately said we are going to put up the city and these are the benchmarks, that the residents in Singapore, it's just a rocky island, that they were entering a storage structure going to level 72, a residence. Some of them would move there with their goats. It is in the book. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that there is absolutely nothing we are suggesting here which is utopian, which is out of the blue, which is unheard of. No, we are simply saying, for me, I want to conclude on this, Comrade Baguma, by telling you that all we need is a political goodwill to make Kampala the city it must be. If the structures were built where they were not supposed to be built, break them down. I'm suggesting, ask me for solutions. If the structures have been built in the road reserve, whether it is a hotel and it is called Sheraton, break it down.
That is number one.
If the plans for the new houses have not been approved, that structure must not be built. If it has been built, arrest the owner, demolish it at his own cost, arrest the person who approved it. Vendors, hawkers must be relocated. With a human face and a human heart, granted, but they must go. Sorry. Borders should go, they are even late by so many years. They should have gone a long time ago. They are a menace. I want them to work and get money, but there has got to be a policy shift. There are simply too many borders. Kampala is a city of borders. Potholes notwithstanding, but borders must not come to the capital city because we are making a mockery of ourselves. NRM is a government that raised the bar so high that we judge them according to the standards they set. Any failure, including a failed capital city, we attribute it to them, and it is an embarrassment. I beg to conclude.
Chemonges, I have a very fired up Dr. Rugarama.
Yeah.
I would really want to see how he performs as executive director of KCC.
Yeah,
but yes, you are saying
for the right reasons.
Yes.
I think that being fired up is good. We can disagree on the how, but I think it's demonstrate that there is a problem that is urgent, and we should have dealt with. On how, I think is the area for agreeing. But Baguma, I have like 5 things to say as I conclude.
Yes, in 4 minutes.
So we do have upcoming cities. We have Mbarara, Gulu, Mbale, Arua, and all the other cities.
Entebbe is also upcoming.
Entebbe is also. In the next 10-15 years, we're going to be, if Family TV will be in those cities, we shall be discussing the same problem.
Thank you.
I saw Mbarara, the mayor, giving also orders for vendors to vacate the streets. So I think that there is need for us to have it at an overall level. 2, I think that there is need for us to, as a country, because we've now decided to create more cities outside Kampala, probably work towards strengthening those cities, creating more opportunities there, so that we also have alternatives really to Kampala, not Kampala and why say Kampala and and these other places. So that if it doesn't work here, or if probably the dynamics around here becomes that, I can go to Mbale, I can go to the other cities. At a national level, I think that we need to find ways of decentralizing or decluttering the government ministries, agencies, and all these institutions. I think that having parliament here is a good thing. But if you look at the congestions also at that level, there is no. We can have parliament in Luengo. We can have parliament in Mbale. They could sit in circuits. Maybe this quarter they will sit in Shobaitan, boost the economy there. The next they will go.
Must remember that we are building new chambers. So.
Absolutely. So if you are at parliament, it's really congested. There is a building that is coming up. The place is really congested. So yet I think the country is big. Let's try to probably decentralize, so that we boost the economic grounding on the other areas of the country. The other, of course, is for the different cities, the vendors, whether it is Mbale or whatever city it is, because the problem we are discussing is Kampala. Otherwise, the other ones have to prepare. As the challenges here, create the order or have a structured manner of operating businesses. Maybe the other cities have a lot of leeway of doing many of these things, but I think that the plan is very important for us to as the cities grow, they should find the structure of how things are done already there. And probably lastly is around trying to provide alternative means of earning income really. I think if you look at the population in the border sector, those that are hawking, those that are vending, others are very educated, others are well exposed, others would wish to do other things, but they are stuck there because of either lack of opportunities elsewhere, or probably even the knowledge to understand maybe there could be something better to do elsewhere. So I think that there is need for us to, at the government level, find ways in which we can empower through knowledge, through resources, through other ways, provide alternative means in which the people can earn income. Will automatically declutter the border sector. If we provide better alternatives to the border industry, we will automatically diffuse it. For the colleagues in the informal sector, once we decongest through proper structure, it automatically, but in the current circumstance, we are dealing with symptoms and not the actual problem.
Okay, we have a minute for each one of us. I will start with you. You are concluding remarks in 60 seconds.
Yeah, I want to thank Family TV for giving me an opportunity to be here this evening to share my views on this topic. Thank you, Baguma, and your team for the invite, and I must say, good moderation, and my colleagues here for showing up. I've learned a lot from you. I hope the viewers have benefited from sharing of our views. My view is that this question seems small and simple, but it's bigger than Kampala itself. But all in all, whether you are an enforcer, whether you are the president, whether you are the one on the street, we must always all remember that we are all Ugandans, and Uganda is for us all. Thank you very much.
Dr. Rugarama, the 1 minute.
In a city where approximately 4.5 million people work with a density of close to 23,000 people per square kilometer. We need extreme good will on the political side for the implementers to take decisive action, which is not going to be challenged, and we must live because posterity will ask, who were these people living during our time?
Chemonges?
Thank you, Baguma, and thank you to the Family TV for having us. For me, I think that is to say, as a people, we will decide what we want. If the political arm of the side are not willing to, to take the actions as they should, I think that the citizens' agency must come back to us, and we can collectively think on what we need to do. Thank you.
And I would like to thank the viewers who have stayed with us all through. Thank you so much for staying with us. On the bottom line, what we all agree upon is that we need a bottom line, which is an orderly Kampala. We are not debating that.
That is the bottom line.
That is the bottom line.
Yeah.
We need an orderly Kampala, the capital city of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. We want a city that befits the pearl of this continent, the pearl of the world. Baguma Richard, your host, I'm thanking you, Dr. Rugarama. Daniel, thank you for being our resident panelist and coming, supporting us all the time. Timothy Chemonges, thank you so much for severally responding to our call and coming to support us and share your perspectives with the public. And now, Yamu, the man who may come back to try to be mayor of Kampala, thank you so much for coming to share your perspectives. And please keep think tanking in the progressive think tank.
Thank you.
I would like to thank my team, the production team. I would like to thank the management of Family TV, but most especially, I will go back and finally thank you, the viewer. Don't go away, don't tune out. Let's keep tuned and find ways of making our cities work, because urbanization is a reality, it's not going away. Have a good night.
In a time where every decision matters, where leadership, governance, and accountability define our future, we break down the social and economic issues affecting everyday citizens. This is the show that asks the hard questions. Beyond politics, we focus on facts, analyses, and real solutions. Join the conversation, because the future begins at the bottom line.